nothing new. The White House is bragging about their coercion working and the idea that coercion works. I even saw this when Andrew Wiggins, who didn't want to get the vaccine, got it because he was like, I'm not going to be able to play in the NBA. Fuck it, I get it. And you saw people, so they're saying vaccine mandates work. And work to them is being pimped into doing what they want you to do. That's what working to them means, because that's all they want is your compliance. That's all the shit was ever about, compliance. It was about compliance. It wasn't about science. It wasn't about health. It was about compliance. They wanted you to fucking comply. Now, reasons for Axios, the White House analysis, and if I can get this, here's the documentation here about this and what the White House was saying. And like it says right here, according to the White House, vaccination requirements result in more people getting vaccinated and save lives. You know what I mean? Of course, that's just, that latter half is fucking nothing. But here's the bullet point. They're bragging essentially about this shit. Says vaccination requirements have increased vaccination rates by 20 plus percentage points over 90% in many organizations. Yeah, no shit. You force people to get some shit or coerce them into getting it, they're more likely to get it. I wonder if you forced them, like if you held a gun to their head literally and said, I will pull this fucking trigger if you don't get vaccinated. I'm willing to bet that you probably increased the vaccination percentage up. But that's the thing. This isn't about you voluntarily coming to that conclusion. That's not what this is about. This is about your compliance. And they say that, well, if you force them to do something, more of them, and it's not even it doesn't take a rocket scientist to even understand this. If you force people, or coerce rather, you say this is the stipulation. If you want to remain working here, you want to continue doing what it is that you have been doing and the capacity that you have been doing it before, then you must now get vaccinated. Damn, beat everything else. Doesn't matter your natural immunity, doesn't matter your how good of a worker they feel that you are. They're saying that, okay, here's the ultimatum. And yeah, there are a lot of people who, look, I've said this before, and this is kind of where it gets dicey. Let me go to myself real quick. It gets a little dicey here because there's a lot of people who don't like to talk about this because it's uncomfortable. But the regular person wants to just go on with their life. Most people are normies in really anything. Right? The average person you see in the grocery store, at the gas station, they're just regular people that want to go about their lives. Any event that something gets in the way of that, most people are generally not likely to book. Definitely the system in itself, but they're not likely to book. You could coerce them and they may get sour at it a little bit, but then they'll ultimately go do what it is that you want them to do, because the promise of normalcy and the promise of safety, the promise of being able to get on with your life is what they value more than anything. They just want to live. So most people won't buck the system. So if you give them that ultimatum, they'll do, hell, not just that, they'll do almost whatever it is that you want them to do. Now, where it gets controversial, and this is kind of a side point from the point of the segment, but I'll mention it. It was kind of like the argument between Jack Murphy and Tim Pool, which kind of you had a lot of people split on that. See, when it's time to buck the fucking system, it comes with this set of sacrifices that a lot of people don't want to make. And everybody's pro freedom until it's time to do freedom shit. And then it's like, well, I can't do that. It's too hard. And I'm not saying that situations aren't nuanced in that. I'm not saying that. It's like, but we can't say, yeah, non-compliance is our way out of this. And then when it's time to not comply, people up and comply. We can't talk out of both sides of our mouth. And that's my problem with a lot of conservatives or GOPers or whatever, who throw out the 1776s and the slogans and all of that shit, and don't tread on me and all of this shit, but they let them tread all the fucking time. And in the event that someone does fucking buck the system, they'll go protect the fucking state. They'll go protect the abusers. They got the most classic case of fucking Stockholm syndrome. They'll go protect the abuser in the event anybody fucking wants to buck the system. You know? But that's what's going to be necessary. And yeah, I do understand that a lot of people, for one, it's more, I don't want to say more on the line because everybody has something on the line. It's more of like that desire of comfort, right? Because that's what this more so is about. If you don't comply, you're going to end up in a situation to where your comfort, maybe things look grim, maybe you can't see really how the direction that this is going to go, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But most people aren't like that in the fact that they would do that. Like, most people are going to be like, I don't want to buck the system. I don't like uncertainty. So I'll do whatever it is that they want to tell me to do. And I'll just say, well, I was coerced. And you were, to be fair, you were coerced into doing something. And I think this is why they value so much the vaccine mandate, because think about it. The less people that they have bucking at them, the more easy, I guess it is for them to continue doing what it is they're doing. So one more vaccinated person is one person less likely, not to say that this is always the case, but one more person that is coerced in it is less now to fight it. Like, for example, I'm willing to bet, though, right after Andrew Wiggins said that he didn't want to take it and he was kind of forced into doing it, I bet money now that you hear it, now you're going to hear Andrew Wiggins start to slow down on his talks about this policy, right? Because he's now part of the club. He's now got that promise of being included in the culture now. So he's less likely to even buck, even though he was coerced. And that's why they value that in a form of coercion so fucking much, because that's one more subject that is less likely, though not exclusive, because there may be a person that get coerced and it still is like that was fucked up, but that person's less likely because they're being promised to be on the other side. They're less likely to buck the system. But the White House is bragging about it. And analysis in the healthcare system, educational institutions, public sector agencies, and private businesses shows that organizations with vaccine requirements have seen their vaccination rates increased by more than 20% and have routinely seen their share of fully vaccinated workers rise above 90%. That is substantially higher than the broader working age vaccination rates between 18 and 64, which is only 63% fully vaccinated. So they're saying vaccine mandates work because they move the goalposts. It's not about anything else other than getting you jabbed. It's about force. It's about threats of violence. It's about coercions and what it is. And that's what this ultimately is when it comes from the government, which is what the government is going to use to say this. Hey, look, this is why vaccine mandates, work, because the only solution to them is just getting jabbed. So I'm going to end on this as they brag about using coercion, which is they're going to use that information to then try to justify more coercion that they're going to use in the future regarding the COVIDs. At what point do you understand that the system has to be bucked? A lot of people have to be uncomfortable in order for us to get on the other side. And everybody has sacrifices. Some people more than others. Some people, out of that sacrifice, they're still going to remain a lot more comfortable, like myself. I'm not oblivious to that. I work for myself. So that's the benefit that I have for not, what am I going to require myself to have a vaccine mandate? No, I work for myself. So I could stand out and just say, do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I'm just not going to pretend. Now, yeah, when it comes to the band, we have a conflict there, and that there's venues, a lot of these venues that they want people to be required to have vax passes or shit like that, or vaccination. They'll have vax passes, or you have to have approval of a negative test. I'm not doing that shit, and I refuse to perform at a place that will require me to do that shit. But so that's, loss of money and stuff going into the future. But that's just nothing compared to, I guess, that person who has one income, has no money saved, and one income coming from this job that they think is decent. And now they're being forced. So if they have to walk away from that job, well, that's a sacrifice there. And there's going to be a lot of uncertainty if they have family and all of that they have to take care of. I'm not oblivious to that. I understand that, and I recognize that. However, I just want people to keep in mind. I want people to keep in mind that we know that this stops once people stop complying. And I'm willing to bet that virtually everybody that got coerced into doing this shit, or whatever it is, sometimes it's not just regarding vaccine mandates. Maybe it's like mask mandates or whatever it is. But almost every person that got coerced into simply doing what the authoritarians wanted them to do is going to say, well, it wasn't that easy. We're talking at both sides of our mouth here. When we say, oh, non-compliance is the only way we get out of this, just stop complying. And then on the other side, when the coercion makes it to your doorstep, you, instead of saying, you know what, I'm still going to buck the fucking system, you say, all right, I'll give in. And then you go back and tell people, well, I had to because this, that. See, that's not getting us. That's not helping us, and that's not conducive. Simply going to be a lot of people that have to make a lot of sacrifices. And that's a harsh reality. But we got to talk about it. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.